Omori video game. Omori, stylized as Omori, is a 2020 role-playing video game developed by indie studio Omocat. Based on the director's Omori Hikikomori webcomic series, it was released in December 2020. Prominently featuring concepts such as anxiety and depression, the game has psychological horror elements. In the story, the player controls a hikikomori boy named Sunny and his dream world alter ego Omori. They explore both the real world and the surreal dream world to overcome their fears and secrets. How they interact depends on choices made by the player, resulting in one of several endings. The game's turn-based battle system includes unconventional status effects based on the character's emotions. After a successful Kickstarter campaign, the game was delayed numerous times and experienced several development difficulties. It was finally released for Microsoft Windows and macOS 6 years after its initial funding, and the developers also announced plans for a Japanese translation as well as ports to Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Omori was acclaimed by critics. The game went on to be nominated for several awards, winning DreamHack's Daringly Dramatic category in 2021. Gameplay, 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 gameplay. Omori's gameplay is inspired by traditional Japanese. The player controls a party of 4 characters, Omori, Aubrey, Kel, and Hero, each with their own skills in battle and the overworld. When exploring the overworld, the game is played from a top-down perspective. It features side quests and puzzles for the player to solve which allow them to gain rewards and skills. Weapons and items which benefit the party can be obtained throughout the game, including via purchasing them using the game's currency, clams. Outside of battle, the party can heal and save by encountering a picnic blanket associated with Omori's older sister Mary. Battles are played out in a turn-based format where each party member performs a move. After attacking, party members can work together to perform follow-up attacks. Characters and enemies have heart, which functions as health points. If damage is taken, it decreases, and if it reaches 0, the character is defeated and turns into toast. The juice meter is used to perform skills, special abilities which aid in battle. Unlike most role-playing games, status effects are based on a 3-pointed emotion system. A party member or opponent's emotion can change throughout the course of a battle, usually due to moves by another party member or enemy. Neutral is the baseline and has no effects. Angry increases attack but lowers defense, sad increases defense but lowers speed, and happy increases speed but lowers accuracy. Emotions are either strong or weak against each other. Happy beats angry, angry beats sad, and sad beats happy. Additionally, higher intensity variants of each emotion also exist. Plot. The titular main character, Omori, awakens in the white space, a small white room he has lived in for as long as he can remember. He opens a door and enters the vibrant world of Headspace, where he meets his older sister Mary and his friends Aubrey, Kel, Hero, and Basil. They look through shared memories in Basil's photo album and decide to head to his house. Along the way, the album is damaged when Kel and Aubrey scuffle. Upon seeing an unfamiliar photo fall from it, Basil panics, and Omori is suddenly teleported back to white space alone. He stabs himself with his knife, revealing the previous events to be the dreams of a teenage boy, Sunny. Waking up in bed, Sunny discovers he is moving out in 3 days and goes downstairs for a midnight snack. Confronted by a nightmarish hallucination, he dispels it by calming down and returns to bed with his steak knife. Awakening once again in white space, Omori reunites with Aubrey, Kel, and Hero, and the 4 learn that Basil has gone missing. Deciding to rescue him, they travel to various parts of Headspace to search for him, with Mary helping along the way. The group gradually gets distracted by various situations they encounter, and their memories of Basil and their goal of rescuing him slowly disappear. Meanwhile, in the waking world, Mary committed suicide 4 years ago, which led to the friend group diverging. Although Kel and Hiro managed to recover somewhat emotionally, Sunny became a shut-in estranged from his old friends. Aubrey left after feeling betrayed by the group's apparent indifference to Mary's death, and Basil became neurotic and paranoid. Kel knocks on Sunny's door in an attempt to reconnect one last time. The player can either ignore Kel or answer the door. If they choose the former, Sunny stays inside for the remaining 3 days, doing chores and focusing on his dreams instead of reconciling. If the latter option is chosen, Sunny and Kel discover Aubrey attacking Basil. They discover that she stole Basil's real-life photo album, ostensibly to stop him from vandalizing it. After fighting Aubrey again and retrieving the album, they return it to Basil with some photos missing, but he lets Sunny keep it. While eating dinner together, Basil is suddenly mortified to learn of Sunny's impending departure, revealing that he has similar hallucinations. In another fight the next day, Aubrey accidentally pushes Basil into a lake. Sunny tries to rescue him, and both are saved from drowning by the arrival of Hiro. In the dream world, Omori and his friends return to Basil's now dilapidated house, and he is transported to the more disturbing black space. Basil appears many times within it, repeatedly attempting to talk to him about something before dying gruesomely. In the final room, Omori kills Basil, placing himself atop a throne of massive hands. On the last day before Sunny's departure, the others reconcile with Aubrey and find the missing photos. Coming to terms with Mary's death, that night Sunny confronts the truth in his dreams. During an argument, he killed Mary by accidentally pushing her down the stairs. In denial that Sunny did it, Basil helped frame Mary's death as a suicide by hanging her corpse. Afterwards, they looked back and saw an open eye staring back at them, shaping their subsequent hallucinations. While Basil was consumed by guilt and self-loathing, Sunny's suicidal depression made him create Headspace and his dream persona Omori to mask his trauma. To hide the truth, Omori reset Headspace every time their memories escaped from black space. Sunny wakes up in the middle of the night. The player can either choose to enter Basil's room to confront him about Mary's death or head back to sleep. Endings. If the player answers Kel, then confronts Basil on the final day, Sunny and a mentally unstable Basil attack each other and eventually pass out. While unconscious, Sunny recalls his memories with Mary and his friends and faces Omori. Refusing to die, Omori defeats him and the player encounters the standard game over screen. If the player opts to try again, Sunny gets up and plays the duet with Mary that was planned for their recital. Following this, Omori disappears. In the real world, he wakes up in the hospital that he and Basil were sent to and heads to the latter's bed. While surrounded by their friends, it is implied that Sunny tells them about Mary's death. Additionally, if the player watered Basil's garden daily in Headspace, an after-credits scene will show Basil waking up in the hospital. Him and Sunny smile at each other, and the hallucinations disappear from both boys, representing their newfound willingness to move on with their lives. Should the player choose not to continue, Sunny disappears rather than Omori. Waking up in the hospital, he commits suicide by jumping off the balcony. Alternatively, if the player ignores Basil on the final day, Sunny and his friends will wake up to discover that Basil has committed suicide. Depending on the player's choice, Sunny can then either kill himself with his knife or move away with his guilt still unabated. If the player initially chooses to remain inside and avoid Kel, only a variant of this ending is available, with Sunny hearing an ambulance siren implying Basil's death. Development. Omori was developed over the course of 6.5 years, directed by pseudonymous artist Omocat. It is based on Omori Hikikomori, a webcomic Tumblr blog Omocat created to help her cope with her problems during a confusing part of her life. Initially planned as a graphic novel, she switched its medium to a video game to enable the audience to make choices in the story. For the game engine, she chose RPG Maker, as she deemed it important to support an accessible platform and community. A Kickstarter campaign was launched in 2014 and was successfully funded within one day, with an initial projected release date of May 2015. A Nintendo 3DS port was promised as a stretch goal, but ultimately never came to fruition due to the discontinuation of the console. Backers were instead offered a Nintendo Switch port. To aid the game's creation, Omocat hired several additional team members, including an RPG Maker expert, but still had a goal of keeping the team size small. Initially, she enlisted her musician friend's space boyfriend and slime girls to help with the soundtrack, after being inspired by Bo N's My Time and coming up with the idea of hidden music tracks. She contacted him as well. As development continued, the team had to change their version of the RPG Maker engine, using this opportunity to refine the game's visual style, story, and gameplay. After crowdfunding money was exhausted, they relied on merchandise sales to continue development. The game would be delayed into 2019 and early 2020, but would again miss both targets. Later in 2020, Omori received its final release date of December 25. It was initially released on Microsoft Windows and macOS, but the developers have promised ports for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Reception: Omori received generally favorable reviews, with the PC version earning an aggregated score of 87 out of 100 on Metacritic. PC Gamer reviewer Rachel Watts praised both its combat and gameplay, saying the game had all the makings of being a modern cult classic. Patrick Hancock of Destructoid stated that he didn't know the last game that really hit me so emotionally like it did, but criticized many gameplay elements, stating that they could ruin the experience for some players. Multiple publications positively reviewed the game's depiction of anxiety and depression, with Rock Paper Shotgun reviewer Kat Bailey comparing it to her real-life experiences. According to her, the game managed to take overused themes regarding the subject and create a memorable darkness. Watts stated that the game captures this sentiment of overcoming anxiety masterfully, but criticized some parts of the game for being too dark. A majority of reviewers praised the game's writing and tone, comparing it to games such as EarthBound, Undertale, and Yume Nikki. Writing for Wired magazine, reviewer Julie Fukunaga commended the depth and psychological themes of the narrative. Hancock praised the juxtaposition of serious and discomforting themes with whimsical moments, stating he sometimes thought of the game's jokes on a weekly basis. Reviewers' opinion of the game's combat varied. Hancock criticized the lack of strategical depth, stating that he found a strategy that worked and basically just repeated it ad nauseum, and claiming that the combat was hardly necessary. Opposingly, Bailey praised the game's well-executed combat and difficult bosses, stating that they helped break up some of the dungeons. In her review, Rachel Watts complimented the way the game's abilities made the party feel like a cohesive unit. The art direction also received positive reactions. Watts praised the art direction of the monsters, stating the mix of different art styles really heightens the horror. The anime style cut-ins were praised by Bailey, who called them surprisingly well animated. Despite his criticism of the game's battles, Hancock stated he often anticipated them due to the art style, calling it nothing short of phenomenal. Awards: Omori received 2 honorable mentions at the 2021 Independent Games Festival. It was also nominated for 3 categories in DreamHack's 2021 Dreamies Awards, winning the Daringly Dramatic Prize.